Hey folks, Knox with IT Inspired here. Ask and you shall receive part 2. You voted for it, and what ended up happening? We had the question, what would you rather hear about? What is a server or what is a network? And it was almost dead even with what is a network, barely edging out what is a server. So what I'm actually going to do because of that is I'm going to try and cover both, but give a little bit more attention to the networking side. Okay? Tell you what, when the internet goes down, do you notice it? Yes, absolutely. Productivity goes down, YouTube goes down, Facebook goes down, your frustration goes up, and that is why the network is arguably one of the most important things in all of computing today. And that is why it is such a massive and complicated topic. When I'm sitting here thinking about how am I going to cover all this stuff, because it's going to make me have to exercise so much self-control to not just dive into this and go as deep as possible. So I am going to try and keep this as quick as possible and as understandable as possible and keep it fun too. All right, let's take a look. We got this picture here and we've got 3 laptops and they all seem to be connected into some sort of flat looking devices here, which are then connected into this huge Dell thing. So let's talk about what this is and what's going on here. To cover the server portion, everything your computer does, from the moment you turn it on, it is asking for something. What is that something? Well, it could be anything. It could be, someone please help me get to the internet. Hook me up to the internet. Someone please download my emails. I need emails for Outlook to show up right now. I need to go to this website. Someone get me to that website. I need to connect to Skype or Slack or YouTube or blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. There's so much stuff that your computer is asking for. Basically, anything that you do at all, your computer is going to be screaming throughout the network for something. And how does it get the answer? The server. Servers are, there's just a very generic term, server. The moment you turn a server on, you have to tell it to specialize in something. So for instance, when you want to go to a website, someone on the back end, someone like in your IT team, has created a server and then told it you are going to be a website server. Or emails, for instance. If you open Outlook, Outlook is trying to connect to a server to download all your emails. So that is called basically an email server. Exchange or Office 365 are great examples of that. Connecting to the network itself is going to be handled by a bunch of different servers. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit more. But you can just tell by the physical size of these things, if you've ever seen, when you know they're big, and you know they're super powerful, well, why is that? Think about it. How many people are in your office? How many people work for Exxon? Tons of people. And when they all come in at 8 a.m. and they all press power at the same time and all of those computers start screaming and shouting for something, we need one really big device to be able to handle all of those requests, and that's what servers do. Now, how does your laptop get to the server? How do they communicate? Well, that's over a network. And to explain networks, I'm actually going to start off with something a little bit simpler. We're just going to take a look at an envelope. You know how envelopes work, hopefully. You know how maps work. You know how roads work. In the top left here, you've got a source. That's going to be the sender's address. So you've got a source person, a street, a city, and a zip. And a destination down here in the center, you've got a destination person, a destination street, and a destination city and a zip. What I want to focus on, though, is this line right here. So really think about what this line is talking about here. There is a street, and on that street there is a collection of buildings or houses. And each of those houses has an individual number that is used to identify its position on that street. So in this case, we've got Destination Drive, and on that, we know that on Destination Drive, there's probably going to be multiple buildings. So on that, to specify the exact building we want to get to, we specify that it needs to go to 123 Drive. Well, networks work the exact same way. Just think of them as a complex collection of streets. And on that street, that network, a single network is just like a street, all the computers that plug into it get a number that identifies them on that network. And that address is called an IP address. I've kind of got this brought up here. Now, what's different about, let me do this real quick. Let's do this and that. What's a little different about the IP address versus the envelope here is that in the envelope, we specify the number first and then the street. Whereas a network address, which is going to be this 192.168.120, it's the other way around. You specify the network first, and then lastly, you specify what the individual device is. Now, how do we know which of these four numbers? We're looking at 192, that's a number. 168, that's a number. 1, that's a number. And 20, that's a number. How do we know which of those represents the street? How do we know what represents the network? Well, right underneath it, they have something called the subnet mask. And I could spend literally days talking about how this works because it is very, very complex. But the most simple way for me to tell you how this works is if you see the number 255, line that up with this number right here, right above it, and you know that number belongs to the network. So in this case, 255, the first 255, lines up with that 192, so we know that's in the network. And the next 255 lines up with 168, and the next 255 lines up with 1, and then there's a 0. So since that's not 255, we know 20 is the number that identifies this computer on that network that is the 192.168.1 network. And if you're now curious and you want to see, okay, well, what's my IP address? How do I know what my computer's is? You can go down here to your start menu on any Windows machine. You can just click start and just start typing the letters CMD, Charlie, Mike, Delta. And once you see command prompt pop up, you can just click on that. And it brings you up a little command prompt. And what you want to type in here is just IP config, all one word, and press enter. And right here you can see one of the first things that pops up is an IPv4 address. And I can see, 10.10.20.10. And then right underneath it, the subnet mask, 255.255.255.0. So I know that I'm on the network 10.10.20, and my address on that network is 10. That's how the IP address, very, very overly simplified, is built up. Now, when my computer, which is addressed at 10.10.20.10, wants to communicate to another machine on a network, whether that's the Exchange server or the website server or whatever, it has to build what's called a packet. And the packet it identifies, first of all, who it's coming from. So that's going to be 10.10.20.10. And then it identifies where it's going to. And that really could be anything. So let's take it now to the little street view. So I've kind of built up a regular map where we've got 1, 2, 3 Main Street and 4, 5, 6 Main Street. And then we've got Lover's Lane. We've got 7, 8, 9 Lover's Lane. So let's first start off by just focusing on Main Street. If we're now pretending that 1, 2, 3 Main Street and 4, 5, 6 Main Street, these two houses here, are actually computers, they may be something like, let's type it out, 192.168.1.30 and 192.168.1.40. If they're on the same network, which we can pretty much assume they are, then they don't need much help communicating to each other. They may pass through something called a network switch. And what the switch does, that's actually what is photographed here in these. These are network switches with all these ports in the middle. What a switch does is it moves internet traffic or network traffic from one device to the next device if they're on the same network. So it's very, very common for businesses to have lots of network switches because they have lots of devices. So that way these devices that are on the same network can very easily get to each other. They don't need help leaving Main Street because they're going to stay on Main Street. What the issues when issues do arise is when we have to leave Main Street. Let's say we're now on 192.168.1.30, which is, on Main Street, and we're trying to get to this machine down on Lover's Lane, which may be something like 10.20.95.172, something like that. Our computer could quickly identify, hey, this is not on my network because I know I'm on 192.168.1. I need help getting to this network because a switch isn't going to get it done. That's what a router does. So I'm going to label this little circle here router. And the technical term for how this machine gets to a router is this 192.168.130 has what's called a gateway. And it basically is saying that if I can't get to a device because it's not on my network, I'm going to send this destination address I'm going to send this little envelope to my router, and the router is going to get it to the correct network. So in this case, if we want to go back to the command prompt, you may have noticed it already when we typed ipconfig, I have a default gateway of 10.10.21. So in the instance that I ever need to leave the network of 10.10.21 and go to something like 8.8.8.8, which is clearly not on the 10.10.20 network, I can do that. See, it's getting these little replies and it's showing the info. It works because I punted that envelope off to 10.10.21 and the router handled it from there. So if you're ever wondering, oh man, I think the internet's down or something, just try pinging 8888 and it'll tell you pretty quickly if your default gateway is working. All right, so that kind of summarizes at a very, very high level what a network is, and that is actually exactly how the internet works. It's just a series of routers punting traffic off to each other. So hopefully you found that informative. Definitely hit us up on the IT Inspired Facebook page. Let us know what you think and if you enjoyed this video. And if you want to learn something else, if you have more questions, feel free to hit us up at any time.